Hi everyone, it's time for another live look at the astrology. My name is Katie Sweetman, and this is your look at the astrology for June the 23rd through 29th, 2025. So we are back live. I did this last week as a pre-recorded video, and what a week to be gone. But we've got lots to catch up on, especially in the world. But for those that are watching live, do say hello. It's always fun to see where everybody's watching from. Even if you're not watching live, do say hello. And for those that don't know who I am, again, my name is Katie Sweetman, and I'm an astrologer and psychic medium located here presently in the rolling hills of Central Maryland. You hear me say it every week. The astrology is 50%, you're the other 50%. So while I've been gone, we had some big aspects that we need to just sort of catch up on because they carry us into July, and they are sort of built into the energy of this week's Cancer new moon on June 25th. While I was gone, I ended up taking a few days off because it's just, as you can imagine, it's just hard to do a lot of things in advance. And I was like mostly offline, heck of a week to be mostly offline. And so one of the, let's go back for a second. Over the past few months, and even at the beginning of the year, I was like, 2025 is going to be like 3 acts. The first act takes us all the way to the end of May. The second act is June, July, and August. The fourth or the third act is the rest of the year. So really September, October, and all the way to the end of December. And one of the reasons why there's this sort of second act, June and July and August, is because we start to have different players in the astrology. Saturn is now in Aries, Jupiter is now in Cancer, which we'll get back to. Those planets are playing off of Neptune's, also now in Aries as of the end of March. And for me as an astrologer, each new moon creates a stage and setting. A new moon creates a stage that unfolds over a 4-week period. But when we have a solar eclipse, we're not having a solar eclipse right now. We had a solar eclipse back on March 29th. That solar eclipse sets us up for the next 6 months, approximately. And what I've noticed over time is that when we get to 3 months out and 3 months before the next eclipse, we can see the manifestation of the eclipse. We had an Aries new moon solar eclipse back on, again, March 29th. And so Aries, the energy of Aries, is our driving energy as we go into September. And high side Aries is new beginnings. It's taking action, it's taking the lead, but it's also new beginnings. And so I was sort of circling June as an astrologer. I was like, this is a month to sort of keep our eyes on. And then also, because last week we had Jupiter square Saturn. Jupiter made its final square to Saturn. We had Jupiter square Neptune on the 18th last week. We also had Mars square Uranus. This was on the 15th, same day as Jupiter square Saturn. These are big aspects. Just to kind of give you some context, the last time Jupiter was square Saturn was 2015-16. Before that, it was 2006. Kind of similar, but not totally for Jupiter square Neptune. I think it was 2017 or 19 when we had the Jupiter square Neptune. But anyway, so these are not, everyday average energies. Sorry, it's like 1,000,000 degrees here in Maryland, and maybe it's 1,000,000 degrees where you are. And for those friends who are using Celsius, it got to about 35, 36 today. It was supposed to get up to about 37, 38, but anyway, so I digress in case I'm melting on camera. But yeah, stay cool. So we got to the middle of June, and it's sort of like we're already at an inflection point for the year, and then you add Jupiter square Saturn, Jupiter square Neptune, and Mars square Uranus. So it sort of shakes things up. Now, you all live your own life, so you would have seen this play out in a way that's relevant to your life. Maybe you decided to make some changes. I don't know. How are you feeling after last week? But it's transformative energy nonetheless, and it's energy that also brings us into sort of like creates a thread that will take us into September. So June is a month to watch because it can be a preview for September. I hope not. It can also be a thread of a theme that we will continue to revisit when we get to September, because September we will have a lunar eclipse on September 7th, and we will have a solar eclipse on September 21st. So that's our next eclipse season. So in the interim, while I was away, we had the end of Gemini season, and that we are now in Cancer season. So it's summer here in the Northern Hemisphere. It's very, very much summer here in the Northern Hemisphere, and it is winter for those in the Southern Hemisphere. So the sun now in Cancer, the energy and the archetype moves away from Gemini and towards Cancer. I actually really love Cancer, more so because I feel that it's an underrated sign. And I periodically talk about this because there are certain signs that I think from a pop culture standpoint, there's sort of these memes or these tropes, and I'm like, but the sign is so much deeper than that. Cancer is the first water sign. There are 4 elements in astrology. There is fire, there is earth, there is air, and there is water. So water kind of completes the set. It reminds us that in order to create social connection, air, we also need water. It's empathy, compassion, a sense of connection that creates familiarity, that creates connection that goes beyond surface. And Cancer, in the zodiac wheel at least, it forms the base and the foundation of the zodiac. It holds us up. So this is a season, although 4 weeks long, where we're getting back to our roots. We're getting back to what holds us up and nourishes us, and doggy, and feeds us. And very often that's home, that's family, the things that when we, my joke about Cancer, at least with Capricorn perspective, is like we don't get to the end of our lives and be like, I wish I worked more. We're usually like, I wish I spent more time with my family. I wish I did the things that I loved. And so Cancer season's a reminder that life is short, but to do the things that you love, to be around the people that you love. And of course, it's not always so simple, but at least on paper, here we are. It's Cancer season. It's primal water, the water of the mother, the water of home, the things that really link us to feeling cared and nurtured for example. So I say all that because this week we're also going to have, I said it earlier, we're going to have a Cancer new moon. The Cancer new moon will be on the 25th, so June 25th, 6:32 a.m. Eastern. For all the world, it will be the 25th. And this new moon is distinctive because it is conjunct Jupiter. There is a lot being made at the moment in other astrology circles about the Sun conjunct Jupiter. Jupiter can, by the way, I think Jeff Bezos has an astrologer to him to pick this time as the wedding, but that's a whole other thing. So there's a lot being made about the Sun-Jupiter conjunction. I get it. It's beautiful. It's lush. It's open-hearted. And I'm not going to disagree with that, but I think just to sort of put it into context, this is a new moon conjunct Jupiter square Saturn and Neptune. We can't lose that fact as well. So what do I mean by all this? On one hand, when we have a new moon that says, okay, the next 4 weeks are through this lens and perspective, it's through the perspective of Cancer, home and family, roots, foundation, getting our nourishment, feeling cared for, or at least trying to make that happen. But it's also a new moon through the lens of Jupiter. Now, Jupiter, you've heard me say in previous broadcasts that Jupiter is the planet that makes us want more. It makes us aware of the world. Imagine a life where you never question things, you never I can't speak English. It's like searched out. Gosh, I don't know why it's so hard. Searched out a new horizon, new perspectives. You didn't travel. You sort of stayed in the same small place. Would you grow? Absolutely not. So Jupiter is inspiring us this lunar month. It's inspiring us to go out there, to see the world, whether that's a literal or a metaphorical statement, to desire more, to want more, and through the lens of Cancer, to desire and want more connection. Cancer, and even its ruler, though it's ruled by the moon, is the beating heart of the zodiac. Without Cancer, there would be no familiarity. There would be nothing that's really anchoring us and sort of connecting us back to something. And I very often, when I talk about Cancer, or even what's called the fourth house in astrology, I'll sort of put it in this context with two questions. Where is home, and who is home? And I realize, again, that that's sometimes a complicated question, or even an area to look into. Family, the old joke is that family is sometimes a four-letter word. But as human beings, we are hardwired for that sensitivity, that care, that empathy, that closeness. Sometimes we need to really work through the past when we're in Cancer season, or even to soften our hearts, or even soften our rigidity. So it's a 4-week period going into August, where we're craving more and we're wanting more. However you wish to define family, because family isn't just a genetic relation. Family are the people that we choose to be our family, to choose to make our family with. And so there is that sense of like closeness and clan around family and Cancer that's really rooted in a shared and common history. Sometimes we need to go away and create a new history, create a new family. And so that might be some of the things that are coming up for you as well as we go into the next lunar month. With a square to Saturn and Neptune, this is a lunar month that takes us into July, of course, where we're at some sort of a crossroads. In traditional astrology, Jupiter and Saturn, they govern over like our world, the world around us, whether that world around us is sort of local, or that world around us is planet Earth. There is a sense of movement and perhaps friction. It is a square. There is a push to define something, to put down roots, to say yes to something, to say no to something, because Saturn's always about defining, and sometimes to say yes to the things that we need to say yes to, and to say no to the things that we need to say no to. The square to Neptune is sort of the question mark, because that's a very different type of energy. Neptune is what's called an evolutionary planet. It goes beyond this world, and it could say that over the next 4 weeks we need to transcend ourselves, transcend the past, transcend our memories, transcend what we think is our small world, and to go beyond. Beyond could be spirituality, or something that's just more terrestrial and emotional, for example. So it's an interesting, she says, it's an interesting lunar month, and one that brings us to that crossroads point with the eclipse that we had on March 29th. So even though this new moon is not an eclipse, it does have sort of a ring of eclipse energy to it. Just kind of look what's going on at the moment, for example. On a day-to-day level, it may mean that there are some changes to be made over the coming weeks, new directions to go in. But I think we're really being led by Jupiter in Cancer. There has to be something more than this. It's like we're, to use a metaphor, it's like we're a plant and we need nourishment, we need watering. And so maybe you're like, you know what, like I'm going to say no to the things that are taking away from me and not nourishing me, so that I can build or prioritize the things that are actually nourishing, not just my life, Cancer, but my spirit as well, the square to Neptune. Neptune can speak to transcendence, deep emotions, compassion and empathy, and sometimes even the very complicated emotions that come up when we feel the opposite. It's just the range that all the planets and even all the signs express. So for me as an astrologer, July, we've got this sort of cross point, this intersection of eclipse energy. We also have, and we'll talk more about this next week, we'll also have Saturn turning retrograde on the 13th of July. I'm kind of getting ahead of things. And that's our first sort of checkpoint, like real checkpoint with Saturn and Aries. I did a whole big webinar on Saturn and Aries. You can still get the webinar. It's got a lot of great information about the importance of Saturn and what this new time for you means, because wherever Saturn is, and Saturn went to Aries back in on May 25th, May 24th, that area of your life is a priority. But we're new in the story. Maybe we're not quite so clear what this new priority is. It could be relationships, it could be career, it could be something else. So we need to start paying attention as we get closer to July 13th, is what is Saturn and Aries beginning to share with us. Before that, again, we will continue to talk about this. July is also distinctive because Uranus goes into Gemini. Uranus has not been in Gemini for 80 odd years. That's a long time. For those that are sort of watching the sky at the moment, Uranus is at 29 degrees of Taurus, kind of sneaked up on all of us. And so we're beginning to come to a conclusion, although not fully come to a conclusion until 2026, of Uranus's time in Taurus. And this has been since May 2018, March 2019, all the way to now. And if you are a fixed sign, these are my Tauruses, my Leos, my Scorpios, my Aquariuses, a lot has shifted and changed in your life. And so now that energy will move to Gemini, and it means that the energy of awakenings, of new consciousness, of breakthroughs, of, dare I say, disruptions, will now start to be through the lens of Gemini. Voice, communication, movement, travel, question mark. So we've got a lot of things on the horizon. But I think with the Cancer new moon, it's good to come back to our heart, to reprioritize our needs, our wants, to spend time with the people that really support and care and nourish our lives. Again, I know there's lots to be made about Sun conjunct Jupiter. It's a beautiful energy. It's hopeful. It's optimistic. Maybe I'm being a little bit of a Scorpio for a moment. And it is hopeful and optimistic, but there is that square to Saturn that says that we need to be also real. We need to set some boundaries. We need to make our commitments. And the next 4 weeks may be asking more of us in some way. That's really the astrology of this week. Mercury will go into Leo on the 26th, where Mercury will actually spend 2 months in Leo, because we have a retrograde starting on July 18th. We'll talk about that more next week. It's a little bit of a slow astrology week with the aspects. Who knows? It might not be a slow week in general. But yeah, there you go. That's your look at the astrology of this week. So let's look at each of the 12 zodiac signs, starting with Aries. Aries, so Mars is your planet. Just a little quick check-in. Aries, you had, I can't remember if I said this last week because I was like trying to rush off to the airport. Mars was square Uranus. That's a little bit of a buzzy energy that really brought you into this week where something wanted to shift and perhaps something wanted to shake up. As of last week, Mars is now, I think it was the 17th, Mars is now in Virgo. So the energy of your sign now points towards a new sign. You have to understand, Mars was in and out of Leo since the beginning of last November. That is a long time. So it's some fresh air. Mars and Virgo takes your energy and puts it towards projects, organization, cleaning things out, cleaning things up, honoring your schedule. You're like, I don't want it, but maybe you kind of had a little bit of a vacation. Maybe it wasn't always a vacation because you had the Mars opposite Pluto, but it's a time to really put things in order. And I say that because don't forget, and you're probably like, this was not on your radar, but there was an eclipse in this space. There was an eclipse in this space back on March 14th. There will be an eclipse in this space on September 21st. Health, wellness, how you take care of yourself, how you organize your life, a sense of purity, air quotes, cleaning things out, having a sense of discipline, a sense of duty, service, helping people is a major lens in 2025 for you. If you're in this time and you're sort of looking at a mess in whatever literal and metaphorical ways, what steps do you need to do in order to put things back in their place, or to sort of weed the things out that you don't need anymore? This is your priority even going into the beginning of August. So this really is your July health, wellness, work, projects, duties, and responsibilities. In reality, Mars is about command and leadership, and it's putting that energy towards operation. So use this time, use this week, use next week to really reevaluate the operations of your life and where you're really structuring and organizing things. Cancer season, Cancer focuses on home and family, and we have the Cancer new moon on the 25th of June. So this says for the next 4 weeks that your home environment, your living situation, your family, the people who are like family, your household, past and memories are also going to be a priority. This area has Jupiter in it for the next year. Even though Cancer season will come and go, Jupiter will be there until June of 2026. When Jupiter is in this space, Jupiter loves this space. It brings the connection and the bounty and the need to create more of family connection in whatever way, whatever that works, however that works for you. It is a time to put down roots. Is it a time to spend more time with family and to really fulfill yourself with the people and the situations that really support and care and nourish you? That said, the Cancer new moon does square Saturn in Aries. Hey, you're in Aries. So we could say that this is also the next 4 weeks that really puts Saturn in the focus. And this says that you need to take things seriously. You need to step into a role of leadership. You may feel in July that there's a lot more responsibilities on your shoulders. I'm so sorry. And with the Mars in Virgo, it's about really, taking those responsibilities and creating a lot of systems, a lot of new flow in your life. Taurus. So Venus is your planet, and Venus is still in in Taurus. It's in your sign, and that's Virgo. Gosh, I don't know why Virgo in the brain. So Venus is in Taurus. Get Virgo out of there. And Venus loves to be in Taurus. It's giving you a boost into the end of next week. Right now, Venus is sort of crossing over some territory that Uranus was crossing over for the last 6-7 years. I said this in the introduction, but Uranus is at the very end of Taurus. It took, since 2018, 2019, it took all this time for Uranus to finally get to the end of Taurus. I think it's worthwhile, especially as we go into July and Uranus going to Gemini, reflect back on who you were 6 years ago, 7 years ago. How was your life? Who was in your life? What was around you, for example? This has been a time more so for the Taurus suns, but certainly for Taurus rising. It's just kind of different to really reinvent yourself. Taurus is typically a sign that doesn't want to make a lot of big changes. I get it. That's part of your, let's just chill and keep things nice and level. That's great. That's how life flourishes. But you and I can agree that the last few years have been anything but level. So integrate it, take what you need from it. Maybe you still feel that last big push to make some sort of transformation within yourself, for example. Cancer for you is something called your third sign of community connection, and I don't know where my brain is today. It's in your third sign of voice, communication, how you think and listen and learn. And so this is a new moon where the next 4 weeks might be a lot of travel, a lot of curiosity, taking classes, sharing, speaking, writing. And it's a time to really share something. And Jupiter is one of the teaching signs or teaching planets. And maybe you have something to teach, you have something to share. Perhaps it's about your life in the past few years to share over the next 4 weeks. This new moon does make a square to Saturn, and Saturn is now in something called your 12th. You've entered a period of your life for the next few years where you're coming to the end of a great cycle. It is to look within, it is to prioritize your spirituality, it is to make sure that life isn't just your physical human level, that you actually have multi-dimensional self as well. The question is, who are you beyond this world? Jupiter squares Saturn, Jupiter with the new moon pulls at these bigger questions, and maybe you've got to mix, sort of reflecting on some existential questions. Maybe you're talking about how you feel, what you believe in, maybe you're sharing things, but I think on some level, especially this week, you need to make sure that your choices are in alignment with your spirit. Gemini, so not your season anymore. The sun has since moved on to Cancer, which is your second sign of money, income, material stability, and security. And this Cancer new moon is activating the energies of Jupiter in Cancer. Now, I've said this before, and even so, I'm not a big Jupiter is going to bring amazing things. Everybody's going to win the lottery. But sometimes when Jupiter is in the second sign, it happens only once every 12 years. It can bring a sense of resource, you have support, you have things you can rely on. Perhaps there is more money, or maybe it's not material, it's more a deeper sense of value and worth. Some Geminis actually may be thinking about making investments at this time. This could be the purchase of a property, this could be buying a home, maybe you have a sense of wanting to nest, for example. But for some Geminis, it's perhaps even self-worth and value, depending on the person. This new moon, Jupiter is a major planet in your astrology, Gemini. It is a relationship planet. It's also your planet of home and family, of career, your public life, the title after your name. So this could be something about the income that you make. This could be a bigger question about what you need in order to feel safe and secure, to feel materially safe and secure. This could also be about relationships and new beginnings in relationships and needing to make a commitment to another person. And maybe, again, it's something about self-worth and value within a relationship, for example. Gemini, your planet Mercury does change signs this week. It goes into Leo. Leo is your third sign of voice, communication, how you think and listen and learn. And Mercury actually is going to spend the next 2 months in Leo. Normally it's 2 weeks. Why the difference? Because Mercury will turn retrograde on July 18th until I think it's the 11th of August. When Mercury is pulling your energy over to Leo, you go into a time where you want to express yourself. You want to share your voice. You need to sing, literally, metaphorically, because Leo energy needs to shine. So there's this sort of desire and push for you to shine in some way over the next 2 months. Just to put this on your radar, I know I mentioned the retrograde, but your planet in Leo turning retrograde in July and August means there's something that you need to work on. That's what always happens when a planet turns retrograde. There is a work to be done. We have to go back to the past. We have to see things from a different perspective and maybe make different choices. We'll talk about this also more, especially as we get to the retrograde, and we'll also talk about more next week and beyond that Uranus is going into your sign, Gemini, for the first time in your life, unless you were alive during the 1940s or you were born in the 1940s. It's possible, but for a lot of people who are listening, I've never experienced Uranus in Gemini. So it is some sort of a shift that will be unique to you. It's hard to say what it is, but Uranus is awakenings, it's transformations, and on some level, Gemini, hey, get ready, your life is about to change. I know, big statement. Cancer, happy birthday, Cancer. You have a beautiful Cancer new moon that's going to take you into your birthday season. And if it is your birthday, on the 25th of June, plus or minus a couple of days. It is a powerful year of new beginnings and renewal. Jupiter bestows grace, generosity of spirit, perhaps even confidence as well. And for some of you, maybe this is a time that feels more rich in every word of the way. Now, I'm not saying that to promise anything, but just to sort of connect to the beauty of the Jupiter and Cancer archetype. Now, Cancer is typically a sign that really needs home and family. It really understands the importance of home and family. And having Jupiter there makes this area want to grow. There's a desire for more, and perhaps you feel like this area of your life is even flourishing, or you are flourishing, I hope. This new moon but makes a square to Saturn and Neptune. So we sort of need to also take into account that it's a new beginning. Even if it's not your birthday on the 25th, it is still bringing the energies of new beginnings, throughout your season. Jupiter squares Saturn, and even to square the Neptune, it kind of gives a different flavor to it, because yes, it is a time of renewal and sort of that generosity and bounty of Jupiter in Cancer, but you have Saturn and Neptune in your career sign. Saturn will be there for 3 years, Neptune will be there for 14. That's another conversation for another time. But this is a period where, depending on who you are, your professional life demands priority. That means different things to different people. One person is thinking about making a career change. Another person is needing to get very clear about the roles and duties that they want to play in the world. Another Cancer could be really, reconsidering the role that they are playing in the world. And for some Cancer, it's like, oh shoot, I need to sort of take a step up into a role. And sometimes that role is parenthood for those for whom that is relevant. So this new moon is new beginnings, but new beginnings that require you to take a step up into a role or a responsibility. For example, and I think with the Neptune square, there's a sensitivity, there's a need to transcend yourself in some way. You're like, Katie, how do I transcend myself? That's the magic of Neptune. There's no easy answers. Transcending yourself is to really sit with yourself and sit with the parts of you that sometimes you get really stuck in. To transcend yourself is to sort of rise above that level, to let something go so that you can really truly flourish and grow. It is a powerful crossroads for you. It activates the energies of the eclipses back in March 29th of 2025. New beginnings in your professional life, whether you are leaving a career, starting a career, getting a promotion, for example. But that's where a lot of these changes will be focused. I will also add that Mars, which is a career planet, has gone into Virgo. Virgo is your third sign, voice communication, how you think and listen and learn. So it's probably going to be a time where it's busy with your professional life. There's a lot of back and forth, a lot of negotiations, a lot of speaking. Maybe you have something to say. But again, don't forget, you're in a period where you are being asked to transcend yourself. Leo, the sun is your planet, and right now the sun is tucked away in Cancer, something called your 12th sign. Leo, you have these cycles every year. The sun goes, spends a month in each of the 12 zodiac signs, and Jupiter takes a whole 12 years to go through each of the 12 zodiac signs. So both the sun and Jupiter right now are in Cancer, your 12th sign, the last sign of your personal astrology. You've reached the end of a great cycle. It's a time where you need to go within, you need to reflect, you need to shed the past, you need to start to reflect on bigger questions. For example, the 12th takes us outside this world. What do I mean by that? Every space in astrology, especially the 1st through the 11th, talks about the world that we can see. But the 12th is the world that we can't see, whether it's our dreams, whether it's going to sleep or unconscious, or even if you're spiritual, what is beyond this world. Sit with what's coming up for you right now. Again, you've come to the end of a great personal cycle, the growth. Jupiter, the desire for more and the exploration. Jupiter is now in a very quiet and spiritual place. The next 4 weeks might highlight spirituality for you, a need to again reflect and go within. You might highlight your dreams, it might highlight your intuition, and for some it might even highlight matters of faith. Speaking of faith, you have Saturn and Neptune now in your ninth. You're in a period of your life where you're figuring out, what do you believe in, what do you stand for, and what do you think is true, whether it's the convictions that you live your life by, or the sort of the compass that you really navigate your life by. For some Leos, it is a time to speak up or to speak out, to publish, to teach, to share your wisdom and knowledge. And perhaps with the energy of the 12th, the wisdom and knowledge is also the wisdom and knowledge that you find within yourself. But it is asking big questions as you go throughout this week, and just don't rush it, Leo, because this is a time in your personal calendar where it's meant to be rest. Virgo, Mercury is your planet, and Mercury is leaving Cancer this week, and on the 26th, it is going, I think that's Friday, it's going into Leo. So the energy of your sign is going from friends and community. Think about this for a second. Friends and community, your social network, your sense of the world, your hopes and dreams for the future. And now it's going to a very quiet space. Leo is something called your 12th sign, like meaning every time the sun gets into Leo, I realize we're not there yet, you've come to the 4 weeks that are before your birthday, or the 4 weeks that are before the sun going into your first house, if you're Virgo rising. So this is a time where Mercury, your planet, is pulling you into a space that by definition is beyond this world. What does that mean? That sounds very otherworldly. So on one level, it says that for the next 2 months, there's something about your dreams, your intuition, a need to rest, a need to let go, a need to make space for a new chapter in your life. Virgo in this space can also be very intuitive. Again, your dreams maybe are more vivid, or maybe you just sort of feel or hear things more than you typically do. Virgo, and I love you, but sometimes you are in your head. And so Mercury in the 12th, and even Mercury retrograde in the 12th, is a time into September where you need to get out of your head and back into your spirit or your heart, depending on how you look at it. That said, and you will have a retrograde starting on the 18th of July. We'll get to that in a later broadcast, but let's talk about this Cancer new moon. Now, Cancer is your 11th sign. Friends, community, your social network, your sense of the world, the role that you play in the world, your hopes and your dreams and wishes for the future. And with this new moon, it says that over the next 4 weeks, your social circle, the groups that you're involved in, a social issue or social cause, a humanitarian theme is going to be a priority for you. Virgo is typically driven to serve, to help. It's sort of inbuilt in its sign. And as an aside, don't forget that you have eclipses. You had an eclipse in Virgo on March 14th. You'll have an eclipse in Virgo on September 21st. So June on some level has probably been a big month for you. At least that's the way that it's supposed to be on paper. If June has been a big month for you, maybe even if June hasn't been a big month for you, you need that time to reflect and integrate and to make space for the new things that you know are coming into your life. The new moon, that said, it goes back to your friends, your community, your sense of belonging, the role that you want to play in the world. Jupiter in this space says that friendship and community is an area that naturally wants to grow. So if you're sort of like kicking your feet and saying like, I don't have any friends, like now's your time. This is a new moon to give you a reset, a renewal. Jupiter is giving you confidence and support to find the people that feel similarly minded and who want to sort of play a similar role in the world. But that said, I will say this weekend, Mercury does make some makes an opposition to Pluto, trine to Saturn and Neptune. This weekend might make for strong conversations, a need to really see something for what it is, to break past an illusion, but at the same time to open up your compassion and to make some concrete decisions. Libra. Libra, so Venus is your planet, and Venus is beginning to wrap up its time in Taurus. And for you, Taurus is something called your 8th sign. You have to understand that in your personal astrology, you have 12 signs. Even if you're scratching your head and saying, but I'm a Libra, I know, but you have all 12 signs. And wherever the planets are, it moves the narrative, and it can sometimes shape the narrative as well. When our planet or a significant planet goes through the 8th, the focal point is you. And I don't mean that like all eyes are on you. I mean, you need to sort of look at yourself, face yourself, go within, and even go into the deepest emotions that we all have as human beings. Maybe over the last few weeks, you did a lot of inner searching. You spoke to somebody you really trust. You went to a therapy appointment, you really made some decisions to make some changes. And with Venus next week coming up to a conjunction to Uranus, look towards, and even going to next week, something to illuminate, something to sort of wake you up on a deeper level. Uranus has been in this space since 2018, 2019. That is going to begin to shift. We'll talk about that in the future. Then Libra, let's talk about the Cancer new moon. Cancer represents your 10th. So we're 2 over from that 8th, just sort of give you a sense of orientation and navigation. The 10th represents the highest point in your personal astrology. It is the top. It is your public life. It's what people can see. By contrast, people can't see you in the 8th. The 8th is what you keep private within, or you share with a confidant or a trusted loved one, for example. But the 10th is our public life, the title after our name. It is the role that we play in the world, and it's even our professional life, for example. The Cancer new moon says that bare bones, the next 4 weeks are about professional renewal, or renewal with a responsibility, because not everybody works a traditional 9 to 5, for example. If you are a parent and that is your 9 to 5, or your 24/7 actually, then this is a new moon that really talks about stepping into new duties and responsibilities within the family. If that is not relevant for you, it's your professional life. It is that desire for more in your professional life, to be recognized perhaps, and the general wisdom, conventional wisdom, wherever Jupiter is, that area of our life typically is working out. Things are happening, doors are opening. It's not the sort of the hard work that we expect with Saturn being in this space. But Jupiter can also give us the desire to leave a situation, particularly a professional situation that is no longer working for us. If you want to use this Jupiter, like work with a headhunter, look for new work, get the recognition that you need over the next 4 weeks in your public or professional life. This new moon but makes a square to Saturn and Neptune in your 7th of relationships. So there is something that's really hitting the crossroads of your personal astrology this week. This has even been last week, where it's about your future and the direction that you want to take things in. It's about relationships and the type of partnerships you have in your life, and that could be romantic or otherwise. But it's sort of pushing you to really define what are your goals, what are your next steps, what are the choices that you're making. If you are in a relationship, or you and a partner on the same page, for example, there is a push and pull between the professional and your relationships, depending on the person. But this is a dynamic new moon for you, a new moon that, while not an eclipse, it kind of acts a little bit like an eclipse, and it pulls upon that Aries new moon solar eclipse of March 29th of 2025. And you've entered a time, particularly with Saturn in your relationship section, where it could be serious relationship in your life, or a need to seriously define the role and the importance of relationship in your life. Because remember, wherever Saturn is, and it's been in Aries since May, that area of your life is a priority. So relationships are a priority right now. So this is a big new moon for you. It's one that might define your year and sort of shift some of the narrative, and a lot of that focal point could be career and relationships. Scorpio. Scorpio. So Mars is your planet, and last week Mars went into Virgo. So the energy of your sign is now pointing towards what's called your 11th. Now, if you can envision a wheel, and that wheel has 12 sections, when you're getting towards the 11th, you're nearing the end. You're nearing a space that is about your social network, your friends, your community. It's about the people that you have alliances with, but it's also perhaps a social issue, a community issue, your hopes and dreams for the future. Mars is going to be in this space until September. So it could mean, especially because Mars in Virgo has such a strong leaning to help and to serve, that you're putting a lot of your energy towards your community at the moment. If it's not community, it's a social issue or social cause or humanitarian theme. If it's not that, you feel a sense of wanting to connect with friends or like-minded people. If it's not that, you're really hoping and dreaming and trying to figure out the actions that you want to take that will really put you towards the future that you want to create. Mars is kind of in the mix in advance of this eclipse that we're going to have in September. I realize it's not September, but we're sort of seeing previews right now of September, interestingly. But that said, let's talk about this Cancer new moon, because Cancer is a fellow water sign. Cancer is something called your ninth. That's the thing about the ninth. It's really kind of hard to sort of define it concretely, because the ninth is what you believe in, what you stand for. It's your view of the world. It's going beyond yourself. It's your wisdom and knowledge. And these are things that will be very specific to you. But on a shared experience, this new moon might spark foreign travel, seeking and exploring. It could put a focus on philosophy, religion, education, a sense of right and wrong, and for some, even legal matters. But you might be in a very philosophical mood. Jupiter will be in this space for a year, even though the new moon period is just 4 weeks. Jupiter will continue to be here into June 2026. Sometimes when Jupiter is in this space, you have a lot to say. You have a strong sense of right and wrong, a strong sense of conviction. For some Scorpios, you're doing just that. You're speaking about something, you're teaching something, you're sharing something. For some Scorpios, you're writing a book, you're starting a podcast, you're doing public speaking, and for some Scorpios, it's time for you to be the teacher, for example. But there are big matters of faith, and Jupiter is square Saturn, and so it's kind of this bigger question of faith in action. What do you believe in? What do you stand for? That's nice and abstract, but how does this integrate in your day-to-day life? Because Jupiter is square Saturn and Neptune is in something called your 6. Saturn continues to tell Scorpio you need to prioritize health and wellness and the operations of your life. This includes getting your schedule locked down, putting things in their place, cutting out the things that you know are no longer supporting you physically, and to really put some discipline and organization in your life. But I think with the element of the ninth, that is to make sure that your day-to-day life is really in alignment with your beliefs and your convictions, and that's what's really powering and running your life. Sagittarius. So Jupiter is your planet, and Jupiter was still in this really tight mix between Saturn and Neptune. So that was last week. That will continue over the next few weeks, courtesy of this Cancer new moon. So Jupiter, as of June 9th, so just a few weeks ago, it's in Cancer. Cancer is Sagittarius's 8th sign. In the 8th sign, any planet going through the 8th sign, but Jupiter rules you, it pulls your energy to a space where you need to face yourself. It is to look within, it is to get therapy, it is to talk to a loved one, but it's typically a time when you need to go into very deep and intimate spaces within yourself. It might speak about family and the past and memories. Jupiter is in Cancer after all, but it also talks about legacies and the things that you've inherited, and I don't mean money, and maybe the emotional legacies that have been passed down. Jupiter made that square to Saturn last week that really continues into even the beginning of July. Saturn is on some level asking more of you right now, more leadership, more maturity, more responsibility. You're like, I don't want it, I'm so sorry. But this is a time where you are stepping up into something. And with Saturn in Aries, to continue to take yourself, at least over the last few weeks, and this will continue into 2028, to take yourself and take your talents seriously. Know who you are. Nothing, when we forget who we are, it creates a real suffering. For example, Cancer new moon says that the next 4 weeks, the sense of renewal and new beginnings is happening in the 8th. So you can structure this time to really prioritize the deepest parts of yourselves. That, especially if you know yourself, then how do you go against yourself? How do you sabotage yourself, for example? And this is a time where you could heal something and really, especially with Neptune in the 5th, this beginning of a greater work of revealing the true you, not the you that's shaped by the past or that's shaped by culture, but the real true you that lives within. So this is a month that sort of takes you out of some of the narrative that you've been in the past, I think, couple of years. But it's also a month where you're at a crossroads. It could be emotionally and spiritually and personally. I don't think these changes are going to really show up in a grand way. I think they're going to be more within. But don't forget that Saturn is always asking us to take the step up to become an even better version of ourselves. Capricorn. So Saturn is your planet, and Saturn is in Aries as of the end of May. So how, I know I keep saying this, but it's sort of this little check-in with Capricorn, like what do you sense has shifted? Aries is a very different energy to receive your planet, Saturn, than Pisces, where it was the past few years. This continues to be a time of new beginnings. And some of these new beginnings might be in the home environment, your living situation. It could be a move. This represents a different season for you, Capricorn. We all have different seasons of life, different greater chapters. I was talking to a Capricorn and she sort of reflected how that it was like kind of like time to grow up, sort of to take a different path. And maybe you feel that statement as well. Saturn is, even though Saturn is your ruler, Saturn is telling you what to prioritize right now, and home and family, your living situation, your household, past memories, parents. These are your priorities at the moment. Cancer new moon. Cancer picks up on big energies in your chart. Cancer is your relationship sign, and so on a surface level for the next 4 weeks, the space of new beginnings and renewal is through the lens of relationship and connection. Jupiter is in the space, although Jupiter will be in the space for a year until June of 2026. Jupiter, for some people, may bring relationship, but I think in general, Jupiter is just trying to expand the realm of relationship in your life, because sometimes Capricorn tries to do it all. I got this. Capricorn, 99% of the time you do got this, but I think Jupiter in Cancer is trying to reveal to you who's in your life, or trying to bring people into your life who can give you the support and care and nurturing. Knowing that life is sort of arcing through a space over the next few years where it's not about work, do, go. It's about the most personal and intimate spots in your life, your private environment, your home, your family, for example. So this new moon, especially throughout July, and Saturn turning retrograde on July 13th, July is a big month for you. It's a crossroads, it's an intersection. It also gives you a glimpse of what this new chapter going into 2028 is all about. It's new beginnings in relationships, for example, and to allow yourself to receive help and to receive care and to be nourished. Aquarius. Aquarius. So Saturn is your planet, and Saturn, it's in Aries now. So just sort of said this to my Capricorns, but just like a little bit of a check-in. How are you feeling the past few weeks? Because your planet going into Aries versus Pisces is two very different energies, two different signs. One's the beginning of the zodiac, one is the end of the zodiac. Two different elements. One is fire, one is water. And this is a time on some level that's about new beginnings. New beginnings that might take place in different forms in your life where you feel inspired to initiate, to take action, to move forward. And some of these new beginnings might be in the realm of finding your voice, speaking about something, communicating. Maybe these are new beginnings in your neighborhood, in your sort of local environment. Maybe this is with a sibling. Maybe this is with starting a manuscript or really wanting to take your education seriously, for example. It's for you to start to find the thread, because there is a thread that's going to take you into the beginning of 28 that has its beginnings right now. Perhaps even its beginnings the last couple of years because there was an eclipse in this space. Cancer, like we just had a Cancer, or we will have a Cancer new moon on the 25th, is something called your sixth sign. Health, wellness, how you take care of your body, your day-to-day life, your duties and responsibilities that sort of make the operations of your life run. So this new moon is saying that over the next 4 weeks, focus on your body, focus on your physical health and wellness. Jupiter also in this space with the new moon, wherever Jupiter is, things typically, hopefully, tend to work out. Maybe you are deciding to make some positive changes in your health and wellness, or some positive changes in your day-to-day life. Maybe you feel inspired and motivated to volunteer, to help, to serve, to put things in order, to have a sense of organization. With the square between Jupiter and Saturn, you in the third, there is something about the choices that you're making, sort of how you're navigating all the different options that you can be navigating at this moment. And I think on some level with the Jupiter square Saturn, this is a month for you to start to make some decisions about next steps. July has Saturn turning retrograde. You're ruled by Saturn, and that will be on July 13th. So we want to start to look towards the middle of July, plus or minus, to sort of see what this new Saturn Aries time is about. Because your planet is in Aries, we need to also pay attention to where Mars is. Well, Mars is in Virgo, and Virgo is something called your eighth sign. And so as much as you're focusing on health and wellness physically, don't forget to focus on emotional health and wellness, to look within, to release the past, and maybe even to talk about Saturn the third, the things that are really happening within. Finally, Pisces. So I feel like just disheveled. Pisces, so Jupiter is your planet, and Jupiter, it's in Cancer. It's been in Cancer since the beginning of June. And how are you feeling that shift? Because Jupiter will be in Cancer until June of 2026. And to go from Gemini to Cancer, it's two very different energies. One is ruled by Mercury, Gemini, and the other is ruled by the moon. Pisces, you're already a water sign. The sensitivities, connections, emotionalities, and this is important. It's not to say that it's not. This is a time where Jupiter is amplifying those emotions, a desire, especially with Jupiter in Cancer, to have more connection, to feel cared and nurtured for, to be able to express yourself. It's just on paper, at least. I know I've said this a few times already. It's been a bit of a heavy time to be a Pisces or Pisces rising, because you had Saturn in Pisces since March of 2023. Saturn is still square Jupiter. There's still more that's being asked of you. I think on some level it's to start to prioritize the things in your life that are actually nourishing and supporting you, as opposed to just sort of feeling like you have to take on everything because Saturn is in your sign. But it's a week where new beginnings also come in the form of needing to make a commitment, or to set some boundaries, or to get serious about something. Saturn is now in your sign of money, income, material stability, and security, but also self-worth and value. If Jupiter in Cancer and the Cancer new moon is for you to sort of rediscover your spirit, for you to sort of feel like you're yourself again, then how do you invest in the people, the situations, the resources that will actually support that? So it's a little bit of something that needs some reflection. It's a beautiful new moon, but I think a new moon that also pulls upon sensitivities and also pulls upon this new time that you're in, to take your material life seriously, to take yourself seriously, to take your talent seriously, to know your value and worth. And that will perhaps create something that, while not concrete and tangible this month, will create something that you hopefully will have more of a lens and focus as you go throughout July. So, and I also add, for some Pisces, this is not going to be relevant for everybody, but for some Pisces, this is a time for pregnancy or children. Again, not always relevant for everybody, but that's where this new moon, so you do you. So there you go. That is your look at the astrology of this week, June 23rd through 29th of 2025. It's a hot one. It's like trying not to melt on camera. And I appreciate you all, and I hope to see you all next week. You can book a consultation with me. I'm going to be doing some traveling in July and August, so if you have been thinking about that birthday consultation or working with me or coming back to work with me, like, check out my calendar or reach out and we'll get something scheduled. So I appreciate you all, and I will see you all next week. Take care. Bye-bye.